One of those titles that we've been waiting years for a continuation of is Half-Life, and we got kind of a continuation of Half-Life in the form of Half-Life Alyx, which was an absolutely incredible VR experience, which I feel was really unfortunate though guys, that we didn't get Half-Life Alyx on the consoles and so on and so forth. It was a VR experience, which was great, but I feel like it limited the amount of people that were able to play it because not everybody has a VR headset. That being said, Half-Life 3, guys, is this a title that we could be seeing in the foreseeable future following Half-Life Alyx? They kind of built that up, and obviously the great success that they saw from it. Could we be seeing Half-Life 3 at some point in the foreseeable future? Let's talk about it. In an article, guys, coming to us from Hayes Madsen of Screen Rant, Half-Life Alyx creates a lot of possibilities for another game in the series. So here's what to expect from a potential Half-Life 3. So obviously, guys, there's going to be spoilers here for Half-Life Alyx, so if you've not played Half-Life Alyx, definitely play it, guys, and then come back to the video. Half-Life Alyx finally brings the franchise back after a 13-year hiatus. The VR game has some big implications for the story of Half-Life 3 and has fans now wondering what's going to happen next. There's still a lot of unknown about where Half-Life might go next, but it seems guaranteed that Valve has more in store. So here's everything that we know, guys. Let's talk about the release date. I mean, obviously, that's like the big thing that everyone wants to know. When could this game be coming out? Valve has made it clear that they're hoping to make more Half-Life. And in a recent interview, developers Robin Walker and Chris Remo said that they hope it happens a lot sooner. At the moment, however, it's not clear if that next game might be Half-Life 3, Half-Life Alyx 2, or something else entirely. At one point, Valve was working on a Half-Life 2 Episode 3 as the lead writer. Mark Laidlaw released an official synopsis of the plot for the now defunct game. Disappointingly, the development of Episode 3 was canceled at some point as Valve moved on to other projects and their Source 2 engine took up more development time. There's clearly more plans for Half-Life, but at the moment it's unclear what shape that will take. Although after the ending of Alyx, Half-Life 3 seems the most likely option. And I think I agree with that. I feel like Half-Life 3 makes more sense than Half-Life Alyx 2. Even though I think an Alyx 2 could very well be something that's in the cards at some point or another, guys, I think that Half-Life 3 is something that has been so anticipated for so long. I've been very critical, guys, over the course of time of Valve. Even though I love them as a development, just as a team, I think they make great content and great games. I just feel like they haven't shown enough love to certain franchises or IPs that they own. One in particular is Left 4 Dead. We've wanted a Left 4 Dead 3 for so long, guys. It took a bunch of people leaving there, going to Turtle Rock Studios and creating a spiritual successor to Half-Life, or I should say Left 4 Dead, that being Back 4 Blood. And then you've got CSGO, which is obviously a massive juggernaut for Valve, and they've been very complacent with it. They haven't made a sequel to CSGO, and so then you have a team like Riot Games comes out with Valorant, and now they're going to be competing straight up with CSGO. And so what I'm getting at here is Valve just seems to be like, they've almost kind of become complacent, just, kind of supporting a couple of their games, and it doesn't even seem like they support them that great. But I do got to say that they make great games. So I really hope that over there, from an internal perspective, creative perspective, that they get Half-Life 3 made and some of these other games that we really want to see made, like Left 4 Dead 3. So Half-Life Alyx takes place in between the first Half-Life and Half-Life 2, but actually has some massive implications as the overall story. The new game takes place in City 17, and partway through the game, Alyx breaks into a massive vault hanging above the city. Although she thinks Gordon Freeman is trapped inside, is actually the supernatural entity called G-Man. G-Man recruits Alyx as a replacement for his rebellious employee Gordon. From here, Half-Life Alyx completely retcons the ending of Half-Life 2, Episode 2. G-Man takes Alyx forward in time to the end of Episode 2, where she kills the Combine advisor and saves her father, Eli Vance. The final scene of the game is played from the perspective of Gordon, as Ellie hands the hero a crowbar and says they have work to do. With Alyx now trapped in stasis by G-Man, it's going to be up to Gordon, Eli, and Dog to save her. So, very exciting stuff, guys. What I will say is that obviously Half-Life Alyx was awesome. I thought it was a great title overall. I just feel like it really could have done so much better had it come to consoles and all of that. I think that could have potentially been the Half-Life title that we wanted, like a Half-Life 3. It would have really quenched our thirst for the long foreseeable future for a Half-Life 3. Even though we want a Half-Life 3, I think it could have definitely quenched our thirst, but it being only on VR, I feel like it only hit part of the community. So, Half-Life 3 gameplay, will it be VR? Huge question here, guys. Half-Life Alyx is a great showcase for the potential of VR, and it's one of the best experiences you can find on any VR platform. Valve started experimenting with the VR game in 2015, and the fruits of their labor are paying off. The most impressive thing is that Alyx is a full-fledged Half-Life game, clocking in around 10 hours. With another Half-Life game coming at some point, could it also be VR? So really quick, guys, I mean, for me, I do not want to see Half-Life 3 be VR. If it is VR, I want it to be a VR experience, but also an experience you can play on consoles or play on PC. I just think that Half-Life Alyx really, as I said, could have been so much bigger had it been on all the consoles and such. And I understand that there's a development process here. Obviously, the way you make a VR game is going to be different than the way you make a console game, things of that nature. But I just would have, how much time they've had to make another Half-Life title, I would have loved it for everyone to be able to experience it. Valve has clearly harnessed the technology like few are able to, and their expertise could easily be put to use again. However, the problem with Half-Life Alyx is that there's a severely limited user base that can play it. On launch day, the number of viewers on Twitch was nearly 10 times the number of people actually playing Half-Life Alyx. It's a huge discrepancy, and although VR's popularity is on the rise, the technology is still simply too expensive for many players to invest in. Because of that, it's unlikely that a big game like Half-Life 3 would be a VR exclusive. At the same time, though, it's unlikely that Valve would create VR tech and never use it again. Half-Life 3 could easily feature a VR option or mode, but not make it required in any way. I agree. VR option is what I'm getting at. Half-Life Alyx should have been a VR option. It's plain and simple, guys. I think that the more people that can connect with the franchise, the better. And this really gets you to exclusivity, guys. You know, when we talk about like console exclusives, I want everybody to experience Gears of War, not just Xbox people. I understand it to a degree. It's like Netflix versus Amazon versus Apple TV versus Disney Plus. They all have the streaming wars. They all want to have their own exclusive content. I get it. But it really limits the user base. And I feel like gaming has not been even nearly around as long as the filmmaking industry. So I feel like we're still trying to figure things out. And I understand having exclusivity to it to an extent, but having exclusivity to VR makes it really tough, guys, when you're talking, not everybody has a VR headset yet. If all the consoles were sold, say for the Xbox Series S, X, PS5, Nintendo Switch, if all of those were sold and in the package you got a VR headset, everybody would have one at this point, and then obviously something like Half-Life Alyx makes more sense, but right now it just doesn't make sense when not everybody has a VR headset because of the cost. But even on top of that, if you don't want to play it in a VR perspective, being able to play it on console or PC, I mean, that's a great way to still connect with the franchise. But with that being said, guys, Half-Life 3, do I think that this is something that's going to come out at some point or another? Absolutely. It has to come out at some point. I mean, Valve, I know that they take their time with their projects, and it seems like they're not working on a lot of things behind the scenes, but I do think Half-Life 3 will come out at some point or another. I'll be sure to give you guys more information as it comes out. Let me know, though, guys, do you think Half-Life 3 is coming in the foreseeable future, or is it going to be something that's coming out in a number of years? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Half-Life 3 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.